All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of AKA TV, our new podcast talking about martial arts, music, and inviting very important and interesting personalities. Today, 29 years ago, we lost a very famous martial arts teacher, a big influencer for the world of martial arts. His name was Ed Parker. And for that reason and many other reasons, we have a guy here next to us who practices the art of Kenpo karate. And he's a well known and worldwide traveling martial artist, Mr. Ingmar Johansson from Sweden. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here at Academie 8 during the weekend. We did lots of trainings and workouts during the weekend. So, as always, for those people of you who don't know this guy, could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, well, my name is Ingmar Johansson. I come from Sweden, and I started up my school in Sweden many years ago. It's been active 33, 34 years. Now I run into professional school, but I started up like a young kid, wanted to learn the martial arts, and I traveled a lot to South America to start training there. And from there, I went to the United States. I ended up in England, and back to the United States, and so on. So I did some boxing before I started training Kenpo, and had a lot of fun with that. Learned a lot about sparring and stuff like that. And then, with the years later on, you start to develop in a school and start to have students, and then later on down the line, I end up traveling the world and teaching them art full time, which I'm very blessed and grateful for because I really love what I do.
So that means at a certain point in your life, you realize that the martial arts mean a lot to you and you want to do it professionally. Can you remember those years?
Yeah, because at that point I was working as a travel agent, and I enjoyed my work, but the problem was that the company that I worked for broke. So then I was standing there saying, hey, what am I going to do? But at that time we were training regular and every day, and I loved the training, as I always trained in my life. So I figured, well, if I'm going to change career, what do I want to do? And the only thing I really felt like I wanted to do was the martial arts. So I decided to study, and not only the Kenpo, but also how to become a good teacher, and how do you going to tell people, how are you going to teach them this stuff in the best way you can. So I decided to go to the Swedish Sports Institute and studied how to become a better teacher. So I did that. I studied in the late 90s. I studied 2 years living at the school up in Stockholm, and at the same time I was doing the Kenpo. And about the year 2000 I decided that I wanted to leave the competition and the competitions in Europe. I did pretty good. I was happy with what I've done, but I felt I needed new challenges. And for me to learn more about Kenpo and learn what it had to offer, I knew at the time that Kenpo had so much more to offer, and I wasn't really being exposed to it 100%, and I wanted to learn more about it. And that went well with my thoughts of how to teach, the pedagogic style, and go forward with my knowledge. So that's when I went to the school and studied, and at the same time I was studying Kenpo deeply, so to speak, and more profound, to try to understand why we do what we do, and what dictates what we do, and what does the art contains. I want to know why we do the things we do.
We got some questions recently about what Kenpo really is, because as it seems, I mean, in the United States, many people practice it and many people know it for obvious reasons, but in Europe, it doesn't seem to be spread that much. Maybe you can explain to the audience a little bit what Kenpo is.
Well, Kenpo is a system that was the Kenpo we do, so to speak, was developed most in the mainland and in the United States, Ed Parker, and he made a system more adapted to the street to follow the evolution, because the art and all arts evolves and go forward, and he felt there was a need for that. So, but he also had a lot of other thoughts, to complete categories and things like that, and he wanted to show this in the program and in the teaching. And we say that everything has an opposite and a reverse. And so what does that mean? How do you do this? So he evolved a very sophisticated system that included all these things. And that's why it's so fascinating and interesting how somebody can have that genius that Ed Parker had. And the system really, if you study it and analyze it and learn it the way it was taught and designed, you will learn that. And then down the road, you start changing everything, because that's what it was for, to be changed. Staying with the different rules and concepts that there is, the equation formula and so on. So, it's a very good tool to learn about self-defense and have an effective system that is made to eliminate your opponent, very devastating in a few blows. And that was the main idea.
So, as many of you might know, there's different offshoots and lineages in the Kenpo system worldwide. I mean, it also goes for other systems. There's lineages. Maybe you can explain us a little bit about the lineages in the Kenpo system worldwide and what lineage you belong to.
Well, I mean, everything starts with Ed Parker, and Ed Parker's right-hand man was Richard Huck Planas, and he had his way of moving and interpretation of things. Like many other instructors all over the world, they all have their personal signatures and things they like and don't like and so on. And therefore you will find different ways of moving and doing things. Personally, I work with Richard Huck Planas, and because he explains everything. I would say he's the most knowledgeable person about Kenpo today alive. And
what would you say? Why is that? What's the reason for that? I mean, you trained with many different instructors and teachers, right?
Yeah.
In the past.
But he was basically the one that was there all the time. He was there, working for Ed Parker. He was the guy who was traveling for Ed Parker, teaching the system constantly. So, I said once again, there are many different ways to perform the things and analyze things. But I think the important thing is that the way he presents the system, explains the system, fits very well. And it's very theoretical, and in the sense that you understand to learn what the art is all about. But then comes the beauty, is that you should be able to do the theoretical aspect with the practical aspect, and they should go hand in hand, and it does. And then after that, you start adding things. We teach you the base of the system, basically. And after that, you have to use the art part, martial art. That means that it's the way how you present things, and that aspect is very personalized. And I like the way he presents it and does it. I mean, we work in a studio. What's a studio? Studio is a place where you create things. So we create with our body. So we have the base foundation of 154 techniques, but that's just the base. From that base, you start changing things. Adding, taking away, rearranging, deleting stuff to make it better for the moment of truth, so to speak, when you're in action. And I think that's the beauty, that we play with the art. Very, very important to play with the art and not have a set things of extensions after technique. It's better to be able to make up solutions, because that's what we do.
So that's the art part of martial arts.
Absolutely.
I mean, for you guys, the viewers, if any of you has ever had experience with martial arts, please write it down in the comment section and let us know what martial arts maybe you have trained or are still training, because that's very interesting. The next question for you, Mr. Johansson, do you still remember the first day that you met Mr. Planas, or the first maybe weeks or months of your experiences with him, learning under him?
First time I met Mr. Planas was in 1996 in Baltimore, United States. I was part of a seminar that he taught that I thought was very, very interesting, and the way he presented it, and I found that interest to learn more about it and how he presented the system, because it's different the way he presented it. But
in what way? Maybe in one sentence, what was the difference between his way and other ways?
Mostly, I mean, how you explain things. He talks in terms of, seek the center line and face your work, using different pedagogical systems or styles to teach, to come through to the students how you have to think and work. He's very much into economy of motion, which is what Kenpo is all about, economy of motion. Thinking always how to be as effective as possible. And still, being a devastating art, you still have to have control when you work with your partner and so on. But mixing that part with the theory, with the practical aspect, I think that was what appealed to me very much. It's not about monkey say, monkey do. It is about understanding. And if you want to teach anything, you have to understand what you're teaching. And you have to have the tools to be able to explain these things.
And you need time, right? You need time to really mature and understand it thoroughly.
Well, that's why we have time requirements in between. The time requirements is to mature your knowledge and understand what you're learning and so on. It's not about waiting 3 years and say, hey, I waited 3 years, it's time for me to test now.
Yeah, be a black belt right away.
Yeah, that's not what it's about. It's about understanding and doing that. And I have done that. I realized I've become much more knowledgeable with the time. I made my mistakes when I'm teaching. Through making these mistakes, I learn. I can look at other instructors, how they do solutions. We can have an intellectual conversation about, economy of motion and so on. And that makes it so much more interesting. And I think that's one of the strengths, I think, with the lineage with Mr. Planas, that there's so much knowledge to be understood. And still, his terminology is not, it doesn't have a wide, like 25 pages of terminology, because it's not about that. The terminology he uses is very specific, and if you understand what these words means, you have everything you need,
So it's like a toolbox.
It is a toolbox, exactly. It's a toolbox. And then later on, down the line, when you start training other arts, if you do that, which is a good compliment, you do Filipino martial arts and stuff like that, you start realizing that a lot of things are the same, but they have a different touch of how they solve the problems. So now what you do, you lend from their systems and put it into your system, because they are compatible. The systems are compatible. Not all the systems are compatible, but in our case, we add a lot of silat moves, we add a lot of Filipino martial art into our Kenpo, and they are compatible systems. So therefore, your art takes a different direction. But once again, it's an art. So which direction do you want to make it go? And that's an individual, personal touch that you have to like. And it also depends what people you meet down the road.
Right, yeah.
So if you're a trained judo, you can easily add the judo moves into the Kenpo moves, if you think that's the way you want to go with your art. But every time you get a student that have trained something different, you always try to keep them working the stuff they learned before, and then integrate it, because that will help them to grow. You never waste your time,
Yeah, you mean not make them change what they have maybe learned for many years, just adapting to what they have as a base.
Yeah, because it's easy to say, well, I lost 20 years or 10 years doing that. You didn't lose it. You have another experience, and that experience need to be added to the knowledge you're having now. And I think that's what it's all about, growing, and everybody will take different roads. And not saying that one is better than the other, You have to pick the road you want to walk down. And when you do that, you know also what you want to learn and what you want to add to your system. Like the system we practice, Kenpo, doesn't really have much of good knife and sticks relationship material. And the stuff that is in there today is not good enough. So what do we do then? Do we keep on training stuff that doesn't really work? Or do we change and start working stuff that do work? And if you choose to change it, then you need to change it with good stuff. So where do you go? In our case, we train with Marty Saninovic, who's a student of Danilo Santo. So that's our inspiration, and that's where we see how we move the stick and so on.
Hopefully you saw that interview. We did an interview with Mr. Saninovic recently. Just click on the link below and you can check that interview right away and listen to what he said. And that was very interesting too.
Yeah. So he has more background. Obviously, he's a 9th degree black belt under Mr. Planas, one of the highest ranking. But also he has knowledge about Filipino martial art. He has Silat, Jeet Kune Do, and the Kenpo. So that's a broad foundation to work from. And he takes pieces that he likes and the way he likes to put it into the art. And we are currently working on stick and knife program that will fit.
You will travel there soon. You told me to travel over to Los Angeles. Exactly.
In 3 months we will go over and we'll continue working with the stick and knife program that we are developing for our group. And in 2010 I made my group that's called the Road Warrior.
Why is that? Why did you pick that name?
Well, Mr. Planas, his job was to travel around in the United States or in the world, for that matter, to teach Kenpo. And in the States, a salesman that travels constantly, it's called a road warrior. Mm-hmm. So Mr. Planas, he had that name, Road Warrior, and he used like Road Warrior Productions, his TV series and stuff like that. So I like that word, and as I myself has been starting to travel a lot as well, then I said I want to start my group within the group. And when Mr. Parker died, there was a lot of confusion and people didn't know what to do, and there was a lot of fighting also over the system and patches left and right and so on. So, and I said, I don't want that. I don't want to fight over anything. So I decided to make up my own group with my own name, my own patch, and I did. So we are the Road Warrior lineage, and we work under Mr. Planas in Parker Planas lineage, but we have a group which is about 13 different countries in the world that participates. We do not look for numbers. We look for students that are interested of learning and understand the way Ed Parker designed the system originally according to Mr. Planas. So, and that's what we want. We're not looking for numbers of people coming to train just to say that we are part of this group.
And it's no organization.
It's not an organization. Everybody's individual in that base, but we all belong to the same group. But we work together. We don't sell rank. We sell knowledge, as Mr. Planas always say. He sells classes. And these classes will take you to the knowledge you need to become at the next level. And the time in between each rank, that's the time you need to mature and understand what you're doing. That's what will take you higher up. Yeah. That's only, but you still have to work and train constantly. You can't stop.
Yeah, and that was 2010, you said. You started the Road Warrior lineage group within the Parker Planas lineage.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that because I think we met for the first time in 2009. That's when, or 2008 rather, when I was exposed to that lineage myself. And for the first few years I trained under a guy named Sascha Berning from Düsseldorf, and then you became, a few years later, my instructor. So for people who are watching, so that's my personal history and how we link and got together more than 10 years now, 10 years ago,
Yeah, Sascha Berning, he's been a great support all these years, and he's done a wonderful job in Germany too, and through him we got in touch as well, and we're working. But once again, it's all about quality and having the art as the main focus, so to speak.
Right. All right, so you have the road warrior lineage and you're traveling a lot within Europe, but also internationally. Can you tell the audience maybe a little bit about what you do and how traveling maybe also affects you personally? I mean, it's not always easy. People can imagine.
Oh, well, it's when people say, "Oh, you're so lucky, you travel all the time," but when you are on the road a lot, it tears on all the aspects. I mean, I got a professional school in Sweden with 350 students, and that needs to be taken care of as well. But well, I was born in South America originally, and therefore I speak Spanish. That also have made it possible for me to travel to South America. I travel a lot to Venezuela. I travel to Chile. I have a big group down there, and through the language, you can teach them in their own language. So that makes everything so much easier. So, but that means you still have to step on a plane somewhere and travel 20, 25 hours. And that's why I normally go down there for a week to teach and work with them, and then I'll come back. And I do that 2-3 times a year. And but it has opened possibilities also to see how people train and work and interpret the system as well,
And get to meet other cultures, countries, and
Oh yeah,
that's probably the benefits or the pros when it comes to teaching all
yeah,
over the world, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went to Guatemala and taught there and got to see their culture and their history, and South America,
Russia.
Yeah, we've been to Russia too, and Mr. Planas and myself, we went down, I can't remember, 2011, we went down to Australia, and we did a stop in Hong Kong and stuff like that. So we traveled together and do things, and with Mr. Planas, we traveled a lot together through the years and also have holidays together and go see places, which both we like, So yeah, so through Kenpo, I have had the pleasure to travel the world and see many, many places and taught in many places, and that's I'm very fortunate by that, And I also travel a lot to my former instructor Graham Lelliot in Fresno. He does a camp there every 2 years, and that was also very nice to do. But the last 20 years I've been training with Huck, and that's where I am, so to speak.
You just mentioned a camp in Fresno. That's Graham Lelliot's camp, but you also do camps yourself, like the big Viking camp every year in May. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. What goes down?
Well, the Viking camp has become one of the oldest camps out there, I think. We started in 1999, the Viking camp, and the whole idea was to keep on learning, and by doing camps you get different people coming in and get together and learn together. But for me it's always been very important to have high quality on the instruction, not just put anybody up there for the sake of, and not for ego or anything like that. Knowledge has to be the number one reason. And today we have a very good lineup of instructors from different arts also. We invite people from, like Paul Irish from Canada, Mr. Saninovich coming over from Los Angeles, Mr. Planas obviously, Max Pushkov coming also over from Maryland, and different of my own students and friends in our own lineage that teaches and helps out. So today we have a camp with about 150 people coming and get together, and we work 3 days, and then on the Sunday we finish with the Viking games, and it's a way to get socializing, spending time together, laughing together, and doing games, old Viking games. And
So that's the fun part.
that's the fun part, that's the social part, and then we have the dinner on the Saturday night, and so it's a different things, and it's been going on very, very many years, and we have a very nice time, and that's the main thing.
And as we know, this camp is open to everybody, right?
The camp is open for anybody, and we also we have like 4 seminars going at the same time, so you pick the seminar you like, and that's also very important.
And everybody means independent of style or system.
Yeah.
People. So if somebody of you watching us right now is maybe interested in making a great experience, just contact us or Mr. Johansson, and you're invited and very welcome to join a great camp. I mean, I've been going there for many years, and it's really a great experience. So yeah, just do it. Contact us. Come over and learn. That's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely, and on our webpage, kenpo.se, you can go and you can click on Viking Camp and you get all the information there. And it's not an expensive camp either. You pay 140 euros
For the whole weekend?
For the whole weekend with food on the Saturday night and all the training with all the different instructors. It's a good source of, making contacts with other instructors and seeing what's out there.
And also the social aspect. I mean, you meet people, martial artists from many different countries.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You make friends.
Yeah. We always have like 12, 13 different countries coming in from all over the world. And, people from the United States, South America, Europe, they all get together and work out. And, we have had people coming from all over the world to our camps, even Africa and the Middle East and so on.
That's incredible.
India, we had people from India coming as well, So, but that's what it's like. It's all about, sharing and having a good time, and
right, yeah.
Try to learn more about what you know, or what you don't know.
Yeah. So once again, if you guys are interested, just click on our link below, or send us a message here on Facebook, Instagram, or as Mr. Johansson said, kenpo.se.
Yeah,
That's your website. It's a very interesting camp. So let's go back to teaching martial arts, because we received many messages and questions about, from beginners who are interested in the arts. I don't really know what I should start with. I mean, there's Wing Chun, karate, Muay Thai, BJJ, all of those different styles or systems. And you've been training and teaching Kenpo for many years right now. What would you recommend to a beginner? What should he or she start with, and how do they recognize a good school?
Well, first of all, it's a lot about how you are as a person yourself. What do I want to do? Like if you find an interest that you want to use to stick, then maybe Filipino martial art is your thing. If you like, no, I want to be flexible and do a lot of kicking, well, maybe Taekwondo. There's, what you look for. But Kenpo will offer you good self-defense, and if Kenpo is 50% hands and 50% feet, and you use the feet low and the hands high. So it's a more logical system from that perspective. It's not so traditional, so to speak, like you have other arts that are very traditional. A lot of Japanese systems are very traditional. And nothing wrong with that, just different ways of looking at it. Some people say, hey, I like to, like you have a system there where you basically are sitting, waiting, and then you do the perfect draw of a sword, and then you put it back, and that's the art for them. So it's different, so to speak. And
so you have to be aware of
what
who
you
are, yourself, and what you want.
Yeah, and if you're looking for self-defense, Kenpo definitely is a good choice for you, And as far as go to find a school, depends a little bit on what you're looking for. But they say if they have good teaching skills, you should look for a school that has a lot of children. Because you need good teaching skills to teach children.
Right.
Now, if you are into the social part, you will also then know that if they have a lot of women in a school, then you know there is a lot of social activity, because normally these things are, women like the social part and so on. So they make activities that are good for everybody. So then you have a social activity, and you also have the pedagogic style or teaching skills that are important to teach. And if that's all very, very important, how to teach the art. And you also, how you are as a person as well. I mean, I'm talking to teacher. You have to like the teacher and the way he teaches the art. That's also very important. Some instructors are very serious. Other instructors may hit you very hard. Other instructors are more, using different tools to make you the best you can be. And you need to find, what do I like? And do I like this teacher the way he's teaching it, or don't I like it? It's important that you enjoy what you do. You have to do it first because you enjoy it. Then the by effect, so to speak, or if you want it to be, the self-defense comes along the road, and you learn more and more about the art. And I think that's very important, that you enjoy yourself, have a good time, and you learn self-defense if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for a sport, then maybe there are other martial arts systems that are more sport-oriented, so to speak. But
For example,
well, mixed martial art is a sport. Taekwondo is also a sport today, but they are very good in what they do too, So it doesn't mean it's worse, but maybe they have rules they have to be inside of those rules, because that's But what we do, we don't really do anything by rules, as far as go what you can and what you can't do. But we can talk about this is better solutions and worse solutions. They all work, but what we teach is very, very much around rules and principles of what the system is all about, and that's what makes it interesting. We talk about power principles, mechanics. That's one of the things that lacking in the Kenpo world today. Maybe it's mechanics, how to move the body correctly, how to generate power. These things are important, so we don't become a slapping art. It's also a big problem in Kenpo today. Certified instructions is very, very important.
Yeah. Becoming the best version of yourself. I mean, you said something like make the best out of yourself, or becoming like the best version of yourself. So if I understand that right, you would agree on that by training and learning the martial arts in a good school, you can like help yourself becoming the best version of yourself. I mean, many people have been talking to me recently, and they are stressed, whether it be by their job or private personal problems, and they also seek like something they can release the stress, or do something that helps them get rid of those personal private problems. Would you say that by training and learning the arts, that's a good thing, if that's your goal? I mean, it affects your personality, and that's what it does.
Everybody has a hectic life. Everybody has problems, and at some point it's a matter of priority. But it's proven that through sports you get rid of the stress.
Yeah.
Also, if you have your own company and you're working, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and so on, you need to go to some place where you can disconnect from the outside world. And if you do martial arts, if you train Kenpo, for instance, then there's so much related to coordination. And so you have a full-time work just to figure it out, left, right, up, down, forward, backwards, which foot, which hand.
But that's stress again. Now somebody could say, well, oh man, I gotta think about whether I gotta move the right or left hand. That's stress again.
Yes, but there is positive stress and negative stress. Positive stress means, first of all, stress is a positive thing. Because if you didn't have stress, you would not look up and get frightened when you see a car. You would just keep on going, and then you get hit by the car.
Let us know what you guys feel is most stressful for you. When do you feel most stress in your life? Let us know what you think about that, and write it down in the comment section. This is very interesting.
Yeah. And then you have the negative stress. That's a long-term term. So the stress you can get here is not really a stress. It would be more like a frustration that, I can't fix this thing with left and right. But after a while, you start to figure it out. You get to review and practice it again and again. And then suddenly you say, I got it.
This becomes like a stimulation.
It's positive stimulation that you accomplished. And you immediately get a response of your training. Because you said, I couldn't do this yesterday. And look, I'm already doing it now. So you evolved and you go forward. And every time we give you new problems, new things to coordinate. And coordination is very, very important. And timing is in huge importance as well. So you get to do all these things. And you get to realize what you thought was so easy or normal, so to speak.
Yeah.
You start to analyze it and dissect it. And then you realize that's a lot of things to keep up with,
And also what you maybe think you can't do today, you will be able to do tomorrow, and
That's
maybe you
the
can
challenge.
transfer this into your personal life.
Yeah.
And realize that you can reach your goals. You just got to focus on it and do it, right?
Well, we if we wouldn't have problems, we wouldn't have anything to solve. So the martial art, we constantly give you new problems, and when you figure them out and you manage to do them, we'll give you another one.
So this is like life, right? It's life.
It's life. You go forward constantly, and you evolve with it, and that's the challenge. Can you do this? And then you have to prove to yourself, yes, I can. So that increase the self-esteem, the self-confidence, and you say, damn, I did it, I could do it, and then you grow with that. Then we present new problems, and these problems obviously makes you grow again and again and again. And one day you're standing there, with a black belt suddenly, and that's where everything starts.
And also teaching children is very important. I mean, you've been teaching children for many years, and all those aspects go along with teaching children too, right? I mean, if you can instill those thoughts and those positive influences on children, you can affect their lives, right? I mean, we've been having many parents recently who've been asking us, hey, can we send our children to you to train because we don't feel, or we feel like they need to do something to be safe in school. We don't want them to be bullied. We want them to do something, good, so they can grow and become a stable and good person, in life. Can you maybe give us a little glimpse about what teaching children means to you, and in general, why parents should let their children do martial arts?
Well, teaching children is a blessing. It's a lot of fun. You have to keep them stimulated. If not, you lose them. So you always have to have a plan, and then you have to have a B plan, so to speak. You have to be able to activate them, and you need to know, when should I teach them the new stuff? When should I review? And when is it no idea to teach them no more? And by building up these skills, you can keep them constantly learning more and more and more. And one of the benefits, or one of the many benefits to go to martial arts school is that most people today there's a lack of discipline and order in school and so on. And these problems are worldwide. And so the martial art gives you that type of discipline. It's built in. Like, we wouldn't go to a football class or football team and you would tell the kid, hey, guys, line up. It wouldn't work. They're used to very loose type of leadership in that aspect. Mm-hmm. But the martial art would say, line up, and everybody formal line, and they're standing still and listening and paying attention to what you say.
So what do you do with a child that doesn't do it? Everybody lines up, and then you have maybe a new child, and you got the parents that come to you and say, hey, Mr. Johansson, or could you please teach our child how to get that discipline? And in the first class, the child doesn't behave and does whatever
you're gonna have.
She wants. How do you cope with that?
Well, you're gonna have that. You're gonna have these problems, and so you need to have conversations with the child and say, hey, look, I need you to do this and this when I tell you to, and these are the rules of what we do. And as they go along, and as long as you make it fun, as long as you challenge the child, as long as the child feels it's learning and having a good time, he wants to come back. And that's the cue, so to speak, to say, hey, we're not going to do these games you liked last time because you're not behaving. So now you have a choice. Do I want to participate in the games? Yes, I want to. So then I have to behave. So there is, your behavior is going to dictate what's going to happen. There's going to be consequences for what you do. And that's also very important. So when I teach children, I say, hey, guys, if you behave today, I'm going to finish up with 10 or 15 minutes games. Then you make sure as a teacher that you do that. You always, if you promise something, you keep it. And that's important because you are a role model, you're a teacher, and you need to present good manners and good things when you teach. But as long as the children, they learn when they have fun. So you have to make it fun. But you need to challenge them all the time, because if you don't challenge them, they get bored. If they get bored, they'll stop training.
Right.
And only a few will make it all the way. I have students that are, started to work out when they were 6, 7 years old, and today they are 22 years old and black belts. and good leaders, good role models, and teaching children themselves. So we're fortunate that we have a school that we built up during the years to have a high standard and high quality, and good role models for the society, and we are an asset to the community, and people get to see that, and that's what the martial arts schools a lot of times do, be role models and helping children, either they being bullied or not, they have a place to go to build up their self-confidence, get structure in their life, and also get a moment for themselves. We meditate, meaning that we sit down a few minutes before and after the class to think about what we learned and think about my training that I'm gonna be doing now. So I go in and focus. I don't think about what I was doing out in the playground, and then I go in and start punching and kicking, and I'll injure one of my friends because I wasn't focused. So you need to have rules, and these in Kenpo called house rules. Every school have their own house rules, and that's very important,
And that's a good way to prevent, right? It's prevention.
Absolutely, We want to support and help our community, making people better, and that's what we do, in all aspects. And we have a problem today in the world that people are going overweight and stuff like that. Doing sports it's fantastic to move around, and Kenpo does have so much variation. You jump around, you coordinate hands and feet, and there's so many things you're doing. You're doing cardio work, coordination, power, force. You do sit-ups, push-ups. You got the whole thing. Yeah. You're working timing. We do sparring. You do everything, and it's a very all-around sport that you work everything, and that's also very, very important. So mental strength is something that you have to work with and make them grow.
Yeah.
And that's what sports Kenpo does for you.
So for everybody who's watching us right now living in Sweden or in the Norrköping area, and maybe
right.
you're a parent and you think, hey, this sounds interesting, check out Mr. Johansson's website, once again, kenpo.se, and make sure you send your children there and let them try it out. And I know it's a good experience. So, and also when it comes to prevention, and you're living here in Germany in the Saarbrücken area, check out our website, Akademie 8, on Facebook or Instagram, because prevention, that's one of the big things we dedicate ourselves to. So in 2 weeks, it's going to be 2020, a new year that waits for us. What's going on in 2020? Maybe you can let us know what's going to happen, some events that go on. I mean, besides the Viking camp, we already talked about. What's your personal plan or your personal goals also maybe for 2020?
Well, I work with Mr. Planas, between 5 and 8 times a year on a regular basis, and he'll be over next month in Sweden again. For me, it's using the opportunity and the time as maximum to learn as much as I can about the art. It's a great feeling just to be a student, I train a lot with Marty Saninovic, and he was just been over in Sweden recently, and we're going over in March again to train with him, and we broaden our knowledge about, putting silat, locks, and all this stuff, and Filipino martial art into it as well, traveling to different masters and going to the Santo Academy and having the opportunity to train there as well. And it's constantly moving. It's constantly things are happening, looking always for new ways to improve what we do, because knowledge is very, very important, and you got to keep on moving forward. And that doesn't mean that as soon as you feel comfortable, yeah, I know this stuff, and then you stop. That's not evolving. And so I think it's important that you evolve and keep on training, and that's what I try to do. That's why I travel a lot, not only for teaching, but also for studying the arts. And I'm fortunate that I can work with this full time. But our school in Sweden gives me the opportunity, to travel, and I have great support back home, for my development and also for their development, because that's what it is. If I evolve, they evolve. So it's a win-win. And
Right, yeah.
so it's very important to evolve. And I'm looking forward to next year as well because there's always new opportunities, new ways to look at things, and we travel to different camps. Like this year, we were here in Saarbrücken. We had a great camp here as well, and we got together with a lot of people. So it's a lot of things happening. But whatever you do, you keep on training, keep on evolving, look for different ways of solve problems, and don't be afraid to do seminars or travel to seminars and learn more about what you thought you already knew, because there is always more to learn. It never ends.
Right, yeah.
So, and knowledge doesn't have a weight.
Yeah.
You just can improve it, So there's still a lot of things you need to improve and get better and learn more about, whatever level you are. And nobody knows it all. So it's just keep on plugging in, so to speak.
Well, nothing I could add to that. That was some great words to wrap it up. Once again, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Also, thank you for your guidance for the last few years that you've been my teacher. I really appreciate. And yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching. Once again, subscribe to this channel and check out our website and the website of Kenpo in Sweden. If you have any questions, let us know. Write them down in the comments section, and look forward to the next episode. We got some plans about what we're going to do in the future. This episode was not the last one. So once again, thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching, and see you soon. Bye. Subscribe.